Welcome to another edition of the Rising Phoenix podcast. I'm your host, Jay Strasser, and in today's episode, I am joined by Evonna McGill. Evonna spent 3 years on the Elon women's basketball team. During her tenure, she scored over 600 total points and collected over 250 rebounds. Following graduation, Evonna began her professional career with the Milwaukee Bucks in June of 2023 as a sales associate. Throughout the last year, she has become a top seller for the NBA championship winning organization. It was great speaking to Evonna, and I hope you enjoy our conversation. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Rising Phoenix podcast. I'm your host, Chase Strasser, and today I am joined alongside women's basketball alum Evonna McGill. Evonna, thanks for joining us today.
Of course, it feels good to, be back in spirit with my Elon family.
We're glad we were able to get you over Zoom. But just to start off, what we do with all our athletes, alum or current, is just tell me about your journey with your sport, in this case, basketball. I read somewhere that you started playing at 4 years old. So what was that like? And then how did that become something that became such a passion in your life?
Right. So my mom, being who she is, she was like, hey, you and your sister, you're going to play some sport. You're going to stay active. You're going to do something where you're staying busy and on top of your grades. So I did soccer. I did gymnastics. I did ballet, tap and jazz, hip hop. I did a bunch of different things. But ever since I played basketball, it was just something that I really took a liking to. I will say around 6 or 7, I actually quit playing because I was on the all boys team and I was like, oh no, cooties, I'm done with this. But my sister, who is 8 years older than me, I got to go to her basketball games, watch her play, and I kind of fell in love with the sport again. From there, I said, hey, mom, I want to get back in basketball. I want to get back and see how it is, see how I like it. I got back into basketball, playing with a Huskies rec team. And then from there, I've never left again. I couldn't even leave when I was done, being an athlete. Basketball is my world at this point. I was able to get a scholarship offer from UNC Asheville. Unfortunately, it wasn't the right fit for me, but Coach Charlotte, Coach Smith had reached out to me, and I talked to a couple of coaches, and they were like, hey, we would still love to have you, because originally they had offered me before when I was in high school. They had offered me, but I ended up going with Asheville. So when COVID happened, I had the opportunity to kind of reroute and change. They were like, hey, the doors are still open to you if I wanted to take that opportunity. I said, definitely. I would not miss out on playing basketball for Elon again. Took the opportunity, came to Elon, immediately felt that welcoming. I felt like I belonged, and I was able to thrive as not only a player, but also as a person, as a teammate, as a student. In so many areas, I was able to thrive in ways that I couldn't have even imagined. And I'm really appreciative of Elon extending their hands to me again.
Well, I wanted to ask, you kind of touched on it, but that transition from Asheville to Elon after your sophomore season, where was that in the timeline of COVID and the pandemic? And how was that transition completely picking everything up and going to a different school within the same state, but different culture, different coaches, all that?
I mean, it was very different. It's not a transition I was oblivious to, just because I had already transitioned from high school to college. So now it was just from college to college. So it's not even learning a change of pace. It's transitioning to new teammates, a new coach, a new campus, new administrators, new living situations. I would say when I decided to actually go to Elon, at that point, everyone had already been sent home from school. So I was at home. I actually started my own business, making and selling stacked pants. I don't know if you're familiar with them, but it's just a type of pants. I had started selling those, making them with my sewing machine. And in the midst of that, I had to call Asheville, and I was like, hey, I don't think I'll be coming back when COVID's over. So I had to drive back up to Asheville while it was COVID, grab my things, unpack, take everything home. And while I was there, I was able to say goodbye to the head coach. But during that year, there was a lot of changes. A lot of student athletes left. The head coach ended up leaving. It was just a lot for me as someone who was young and dealing with COVID. So I was like, maybe this isn't for me. So while I'm at home getting ready, um, I was able to enter the transfer portal. And while I was in the portal, Elon was like, hey, like, we see you're in the portal. Are you free or open to considering us again? And I was like, definitely. That I think they were the first or second school to reach out to, and I knew immediately. I was like, hey, don't even worry about it. Other schools were still contacting me in the process, but I was like, I know where I want to be. I know Elon is where I should have been in the first place. So I took myself out of the transfer portal, committed to Elon, and I was actually able to meet my teammates before I got there. We hopped on a Zoom meeting like this one, where we kind of did a get to know you. We had a little team meeting, got to know the coaches, the players. So before I actually got there, I was able to kind of break that ice and see what kind of culture I was stepping into. Little did I know it was the culture made for me, where we were able to be friends on the court, friends off the court. My coaches were also like not just my coach, they were my mentors. There was people I could talk to on a daily basis, people I could talk to about anything. I know Coach Edgar, Coach E, that's my dog.
I love
We,
Coach E. I've had
yeah,
I've
I
had the
love Coach
pleasure of
E.
going on the road a handful of times, and my best conversations have been with Coach E.
Oh yeah, he's great. He was our post coach, so I was blessed to be able to have him not only as a coach, but a one-on-one mentor to get in the gym with me and be honest with me, be straight up like, hey, like, I remember one time we were about to have a game, and of course during the game, you're not supposed to be eating crazy. I had took a cookie. He looks at me, holds out his hand, takes the cookie, throws away in front of my face, walks out. Um, but that's just the relationship we had. That's my dog. To this day, sometimes I still talk to him. I know they had a game playing A&T. He FaceTimed me, the rest of the post players. They're like, "Hey E, just wanted to check in. We miss you." Da, da, da. But yeah, this being with Elon was more than basketball. It was a family.
Well, I was going to ask about that family dynamic. Are
Mhm.
you still in touch? It sounds like you are with the coaches, your teammates, but even the people that when you first came in as a junior, the seniors, the graduate students, you're still in touch with all of them. And how is that building that network? Was the Elon Women's Basketball Network look like?
Yeah, so the Elon Men's Basketball Network is very strong to me just because Elon really teaches you to you're not just an athlete. You're someone who needs to have connections and friends and relationships outside of just the team. So of course we have relationships with even alumni. I know Shay, you probably know who Shay is, Elon legend. She will often come to camps. We would get to see her. Elon, Estes Balcom, she's now a coach, but she's also an Elon legend. She was even able to, me and her speak, we speak here and there just about the team, how it's going. I was able to see her. She actually came down to Gastonia while I was in Gastonia, and we were able just to speak and catch up. I still talk to some teammates. We're actually going on a little team trip, a couple of us here soon. Some friends that I had made when I first got there, that's not on the team. I still talk to them. I actually just talked to them like a couple of hours ago. But building those networks and connections really taught us that it's not about what you know, but really about who you know, which is why the Elon Academic Center, they really helped me out a lot because they taught me reach out to people, build connections. And with basketball, we had to be mentors to people. We had to talk to donors. We had to do a lot in the community where I learned how to speak to people. I learned how to present myself. I learned how to just different dialect and things that you do when you're talking to people. Overall, Elon has really taught me that outside of basketball, you need to know how to approach people, how to speak people, how to build those relationships. We've had alumni come in that we speak to them and ask them how they've been doing. We have donors that we talk to. We actually had our own mentees in the elementaries that we talked to. We have, of course, our intern. We learn to be in that setting and how to present ourselves. Elon really prepared me to take this step to the Bucks.
Well, before we get into your career with the Bucks,
Mm,
which I have tons of questions about that, but before
yeah.
that, your favorite memory on the basketball court. I'm sure you have quite a few, but is there one or maybe a handful that stick out to you?
Oh my gosh. I would say one memory I do remember just because it was crazy. It was we were playing UNC Greensboro, and the score, we were either tied or down one. And we go to the huddle. Coach Smith is writing up a play. I will be honest. Sorry if my coaches listen to this. When we had crunch time plays and they're writing on the board, I blank out. Like I'm listening, I'm watching, but right when we do 1, 2, 3 Elon, my mind blanks. Everything is going. So mind you, this is a very important shot because it's either we lose or we win. There's no coming back from this. She writes up the play. I'm like, okay, got it. She's like, you got it, E? I'm like, I got it. 1, 2, 3, Elon, go. Right as I'm walking out to my spot, I remember where I was supposed to go, but right when the ref blew the whistle, gone. I'm like, oh my gosh. I'm like, but of course, what I always do, I set screens. So I just started setting screens. I set some random screens. Luckily, Bree Perpignan, Kayla Lyles, great athletes. I played with them. I didn't get to play with them for long, but I played with them enough to where we all could read off of each other. I set a down screen, then I set a screen for Bree. She cut off the back of me. Kayla is a diamond. She threw a dime pass to Bree. Bree gets the layup. We win. I just say I always remember that because I really messed up the play. If if Bree and Kayla had not been there and been the players that they are, we would have been in the film room watching film, and I would have been getting yelled at like, E, what are you doing? Why were you even over there?
Did you ever
And
find out what you were drawn up to do on that play?
I never found out. We never had to talk about it because we won.
Winning heals all.
Winning heals all, and I'm glad because to this day I don't know what I was supposed to be doing, but I know I set two screens and we got a bucket. So we did what we had to do. And then kind of similar situation when Raven Preston hit the buzzer beater against what school is that?
It
I
was
want to
Delaware
say
because I was there and it was
yes.
amazing. That
Yes.
play just I don't know what you guys had drawn up,
I
but
messed up that play too.
I don't think whatever was drawn up did not happen.
It didn't.
No,
So
that was an amazing play to watch in real time.
yeah, I mean, if you were there, then you saw like the the panic. It was like 2 seconds of panic to where somehow I ended up with the ball in my hands, and I think I was supposed to hand it off to somebody. I don't know what happened, but it didn't happen. I saw Raven. I'm like, oh, Raven, because you've seen us. Me to Raven, I loved playing with Raven because if I didn't have it, I know Raven's cutting to the basket. I know Raven is moving around, getting open to where I can hit her and get a little assist. I really do miss playing with her, but that's another memory. I would say those two are my top two memories just because Raven, a freshman, being able to take that pressure, hit the buzzer beater after a broken play, and we just erupted. So yeah, I would say those are my top memories. And of course, Coach E taking my cookie. That would be maybe my top three memories.
Very excited to see Raven next year. Sadly, was injured this year, so sat the
Yeah,
year out, but really excited to see her get back on the court.
yeah, very excited to do that.
Now talking about professionally, you mentioned you're now with the Milwaukee Bucks. How did
Yes.
that opportunity come about? And that was not what you went to school to do.
Oh, no.
So at what point did you realize, all right, we're shifting gears, pandemic, transferring, all that roped in with, okay, now I want to pivot to this career path?
I'll be honest, this was a super last minute career change. Like, I was actually, let's see, because I was just looking at the email that I sent out to the vice president that actually hired me. I sent that email in April 12th, I want to say. So, of course, when the season ended around this time last year, I was like, okay. I've done my 5th year of college. I need next steps. So I really wanted to be a grad assistant and get my master's. And I didn't know what, because my true path is I wanted to stay in sports and maybe be a coach or assistant coach or ideally a post coach, like Coach E was to me. So I'm on LinkedIn. I'm talking to Paul Hazeldick over at Academic Center. He's helping me get my resume together, how to write cover letters, how to be on LinkedIn. And in the midst of that, someone from the Cleveland Browns randomly teams me and say, "Hey, I see you're looking for a different position, but have you ever thought about sales?" And I'm like, this is too random. This is very random. I took it to Paul. I'm like, is this spam? Is this fake? He's like, no, that's a real person. And of course, when you're an athlete, you don't know how many careers there are in sports beside being a coach or athlete, which all I knew was I'm an athlete now. Next step is a coach. So when she reached out to me, that was kind of a door that opened for me to explore. And from that point on, I was on LinkedIn. Every time I even thought about getting on Instagram or Snapchat or TikTok, I would open up LinkedIn. I was on LinkedIn for hours, scrolling, looking up teams, looking up jobs. Um, if anyone who doesn't know about LinkedIn, there's a button where you don't friend or follow someone, but you connect with them. I was connecting with everybody I saw that was in a position where I wanted to be. Whoever responded, I was setting up Zoom calls. I was setting up phone calls. I was being able to get in touch with people for interviews. I was doing everything I could to, learn everything I could about sales, because all of my experience was learning about the brain. I did psychology for 5 years. And then for my last year, I did business administration. So sales was not something on my radar. So I had to teach myself in those short months. But when I was able to talk to Paul, he said, "Hey, you may not know about it, but if someone saw it in you, see it in yourself, really dive into it." So with doing all that, I actually was able to get some interviews. I made it to the second round of a couple, but ultimately they said, "Hey, we went with someone who has more experience." Which is, I don't blame them. I had no sales experience other than maybe working fast food sometimes just to make some extra money during the off season. Um, but I just kept going at it. I kept going at it. And I ended up emailing the vice president of ticket sales for Milwaukee Bucks. And he said, "Hey, like, I like your energy. I like how you came at me." We set up a Zoom call. Immediately after the Zoom call, he tells me, "Fill out this application. We'll be in touch." And in the span of a week, I had 3 interviews and got the job in the span of a week. Um, so honestly, it doesn't matter what you want to do or where you want to go, as long as you can advocate for yourself, as long as you can keep pushing behind all of the no's and all of the people who don't even open your messages. Just keep going. Like, you never know where it can take you. I ended up going to Milwaukee Bucks. I was the only person in my class with no sales experience, and I'm also the only person to double our sales goal. So I would say it was all worth it. The city's cold, but the job is perfect.
So you're in Milwaukee now, like
I'm
living
actually, uh
living in Milwaukee. So you went to school in North Carolina, grew up in North Carolina. What I keep asking about the transitions between all the different places. What was that like? Were you someone that stayed in North Carolina most of your life and this was like completely new to you, going Milwaukee?
yeah, so UNC Asheville was in North Carolina. Elon was in North Carolina. My high schools are in North Carolina. I grew up in North Carolina. The only times I would leave North Carolina is when we have a basketball game or when I was playing AAU or if we had a family trip. But for me to move 14 hours away to Milwaukee where the weather's different, the people are different, the culture's different, the time is different. They're not even on the same time as us. I think right now in Milwaukee it's probably like 3:54, where here it's like 5 o'clock almost. Um, and I would say one thing is the biggest for me is that it's snowing every other day in Milwaukee. You walk outside, it's snowing. or it's hailing, or we had a blizzard one day and I went home and I literally cried. I called my mom, I cried. I said, Mom, I don't know if I can do this. But the job definitely makes it better. So I would say the weather and the food. They're not big sweet tea drinkers like we are down here. They don't have Bojangles. Every time I come home, I go straight to Bojangles. I have to. I miss it too much. The food down here is definitely better. Um, but I would say those are the main two things I had to get adjusted to is the weather and the difference in food.
Yeah, and in terms of sales, you mentioned your early success, doubling the
Mhm,
sales, became a top seller pretty much
mhm.
immediately within a year. What do you credit to that early success? Was it something you picked up along the way, or do you feel like it was just always in you to have that success?
I definitely had to put in work because I struggled. I did struggle when I first got here. I just felt like I was already 10 steps behind everyone just because they had sales experience. They took classes for it. They were in one of my coworkers, she was in sales competitions multiple times where she actually won those. She did internships. And here I am. Only internship I had was in a group. But I feel like something that was in me was someone who can talk. When I was younger, I used to always get in trouble for talking in school. It was like we can't move her anywhere without her talking to people. I was something I was punished for. But in this job, being able to talk to people is something that I am praised for. In school, of course, I always got in trouble for talking to people no matter where they move me. You can move me beside the quiet kid. I'm going to talk. It's just something that I do. So taking that natural talent of being able to talk to anyone and taking the talent that was instilled in me through basketball of, you know, you keep going. Like Coach Smith used to always tell me, whenever I would say I couldn't do something or get frustrated and say I'm trying, she would say, find a way. And so with this job, if the vice president could believe in me enough to take a chance on me, why couldn't I believe in myself enough to actually put in the work and get better? So even when I got to the Bucks, I was setting up meetings with people in the organization, asking them about things that they do. When we had meetings, I was always taking notes. Um, and I will always go back to Paul B, who is the one I reached out to. I would just sit down and talk with them and say, hey, Paul, like, any tips for me? Anything you think I'm doing good? I could be doing better. Just constantly reevaluating myself, constantly redoing and re-envisioning how I can be better led me to where I am today. And honestly, just not taking my foot off the pedal when I hit my goal. Like some people, you can say, oh, I hit my goal, I'm good. I had something to prove. As someone who had no experience and he took a chance on me, I couldn't be average or mediocre. I had to show him that I was the right choice. You taking a chance on me, that was the right thing for you to do. You can trust me to do something. Um, so I would say my drive was really that I had something to prove. I had nothing to lose but everything to gain.
Well, without giving away any of your secrets, what are some tips and tricks that you've picked up along the way to help you complete some of these sales?
Yeah, I would say that's a great question. I would say one of the main things I picked up that I found really helps is, people say people buy from who they like. No, people buy from who they trust. So just being someone who is really credible, showing them that hey, you can trust me. I'm not here just to make money. I'm here to actually find something that works best for you. Just being a really genuine person can really help you in sales because people can tell when you're trying to get over on them and people can tell when you're really trying to help them. Like for example, I just had a meeting with a business on Friday. We played the Raptors. I met with the business, took them courtside, got to know them a little bit, and then went upstairs, gave them a tour of our premium areas. And I took them to an area, had some papers where I laid out how our meeting was going to go, handed that to them so they have a visual so that they know, hey, I got to know you, but this is also business. You build that relationship, you break that bond, and then you say, hey, But at the end of the day, you know, we are here for a specific thing. Same way with sports, anyone who's watching this or listening to this, of course, you have your classmates, you have your teammates, but at the end of the day, the project has to get finished. End of the day, you need to win a game. At the end of the day, the job has to get done, but you need to have those relationships, that teamwork. Teamwork is not just amongst the people on the floor with you on the sales team. It's also teamwork between you and your client because you're both working together to find out what is the best solution for whatever the issue may be.
Yeah, and one of my questions, I guess, is what are some of the opportunities that the Bucks have allowed you not only to learn and grow and to have an opportunity to get into sales on the ground floor, but
Hmm.
just in general, being around an organization that not too long ago was NBA
Yeah.
champions, and maybe this year, if everything goes well, could pick up
Hmm.
another one.
I'm
So
with.
what are some of the cool opportunities or things that you didn't expect going into it that you've been able to do?
Uh, there's so many. Like I could sit here and talk for another hour. The Bucks is really more than a job. I would say when we first got here, everyone on the sales team, we went to a Brewers game. We had a tailgate. We got on a party bus. We drove to the Brewers game. We had music. We had drinks. We had food. Then we went to the Brewers game on the Bucks just to enjoy it and get to know each other. And I would say we maybe have a happy hour. We just had a happy hour after the game last Wednesday or Tuesday. We had a game. After the game, we all went to the bars and enjoyed each other. We took a trip to Chicago. Everyone, they bought a bus for us. They got tickets for us. We all hopped on the bus, party bus, drove to Chicago, enjoyed the game. They brought us back. In the summer, we have something called Summer Fridays where on Friday, you don't have to come in, but you still get paid. Unlimited PTO is a big thing. Unlimited PTO is icing on the cake. Um, and then just being able to go to basketball games. Like I still haven't got used to the fact that I walk into an NBA arena comfortably. Like it's still wow, like this is very cool, but I'm comfortable there. It's like a second home. Because just like when you're an athlete, the gym is your second home because you're there so much. I'm either at the arena, in the office, or at home. It really does feel very much the same schedule as being an athlete because we have to be at all the games. We prep for the games. We have post game, pre game. On Tuesdays, they feed us food. Sometimes they feed us food randomly. Like for Women's History Month, they bought us breakfast a couple of times. They made us mimosas, brought them to us while we were working. Um, we had a Juneteenth parade. I was able to partner. So the Bucks are partners with Coles. I was able to partner with them in that where I was a mentor to someone, and my mentee actually won um, Youth of the Year for the whole Bucks. So that was really cool to be a part of. But yeah, there's so many opportunities outside of an employee that the Bucks provide for us.
And then talking uh, right now as we're recording, I don't know how much time is left, but the women's national championship is on, and
Yes.
women's basketball has taken such I want to say steady leap, but it really has been a dramatic rise,
Yeah.
especially this year. I believe it came out that the semifinals between UConn and Iowa was the most watched basketball game period ever on ESPN, which that is insane. And from your perspective as a player, as someone who now is a sales associate for a professional men's team, what has the growth of women's basketball and honestly basketball as a sport in general meant for your position? And again, as a former player, what does it mean to you?
It means so much because, of course, as you know, when you're a woman athlete, you have to deal with a lot of disrespect just because people don't respect your sport. They don't respect women as an athlete in a, quote unquote men's sport where we're just not exciting to watch and we're not fun to watch and we don't really do anything. But I think people are seeing when you actually pay attention, we're doing a lot of great things. Maybe sometimes even more exciting. Like we have the number one watched game. And this game today will probably be most watched ever. And we'll hold that stamp for a long time. I truly believe that. It just means a lot now that, of course, I'm a retired athlete, but now knowing that my teammates at Elon, they can get that respect and that shine and that support. Because of course we have support when we're at Elon, but the boys always get more. But I imagine more and more people have probably been out to women's basketball games now that people see like, oh, okay, the girls' games are actually fun. Like an athlete is an athlete, no matter what gender you are. You're playing a sport. It isn't easy, but you put in the work to get better at it. And I think people are seeing that okay, there's something here to take notice to. There's something here to pay attention to. So I really love it. I remember I talk about this sometimes with my clients. Even I'm talking to them about the Bucks. But sometimes, even in the office where my clients, women's basketball comes up, and I don't think that would ever be talked about where we're sitting here debating about women's basketball, debating on who's the best, who's going to win. So it feels really good that it's we're getting a little bit more respect than we did before.
Yeah, and this kind of coincides with such a big change in the sports industry. In terms of
Hmm.
the industry itself, it feels like it's changing every single day. I mean,
Oh
you're
yeah.
having Dartmouth now with their legal pursuits, whether
Hmm.
student athlete or whether they're employees of the school. But during your career, you saw this complete shift from the definition of student athlete being stretched and NIL and now the transfer portals as big as ever. Again, both your perspective as a sales professional now, probably
Hmm.
working with other businesses that do NIL or these other dealings, and then as an athlete, you saw that transition in real time.
Yeah. It's it's so real and it's an adjustment because of course when the NIL came, there was rules. There's a lot of little rules that you don't know about. Like you don't know what you don't know. So there's a lot of things we had to get used to. And with it being new, of course, maybe only big time athletes were able to take advantage of it. Then it kind of trickled down. I was fortunate enough to get two NILs, one with the insurance company, one with a food company, where it just felt like I was already immersing myself into the business world because now I'm a student, I'm an athlete, but I like to think of it as I'm a businesswoman because I'm I'm dealing with the business and helping them brand and helping them market. Um, so I would say just I think the NIL helped with this boost just because people were like, hey, she's a good athlete. Let's do an endorsement with her. So now that she's getting attention, basketball's getting attention. Now basketball's getting attention. Just every woman in sports is now able to get that attention and say, hey, there's something here. We can brand with you guys. We can work with you guys. You are athletes. We're all just one sport trying to entertain the world.
And as we start to wrap up here, Ivana, thank you so much for being with us. Looking at the future for you,
Mhm.
it seems like over your collegiate career, things changed pretty rapidly, whether it was COVID, transferring, you name it. We've talked about it. So for you, as you look into the future, what is your plans and are you just looking to the present right now of I'm having success, I'm having fun with the Bucks?
Yeah, I think just as you said it, and I think my friends would tell you this, I'm a very, what's the impulsive person. Where it's not impulsive in a way like, oh, I think it, I'm gonna do it. It's impulsive as in if I want it and I thought about it, and it's like, okay, I want that. I'm gonna figure out a way to make it happen, no matter how much time it is. I'm gonna make it happen. Like COVID happened, I'm like, okay, I want to change. I was able to make that change to Elon. Elon comes, I graduate. I'm looking to be a GA, but in the span of a couple of weeks while I'm doing that, someone's like, hey, you ever thought about sales? I'm like, okay, maybe I could do that. In the span of a month, I was able to snag a job with the Milwaukee Bucks. Get to the Bucks, feel like I'm behind. I'm like, okay, next step, I need to get better. Got better, double my sales goal. And at this point, I'm the type of person where I live in the present and I do the best that I can in the present. so that when the future comes, I know it's going to be the best for me. I'm someone who believes no matter what happens, I'm very blessed and highly favored, and things will always work out for the best for me in the end. So I like to do, like, as Paige Becker said, I do all that I can so God can do everything that I couldn't.
Well, I hope you don't rule out a coaching career because I feel hyped up after all that.
I appreciate it.
Well, thank you, Ivana. I'll let you get to the rest of the women's basketball championship, but I really appreciate you sitting down and joining us for the podcast.
Of course. And, if any students are listening and you guys want to reach out to me, feel free to reach out. I'm here for you. I would love to help any student athlete or any student, period, who has questions. I'm here for you guys.
Thank you to Ivana for joining me on this episode of the Rising Phoenix podcast. If you have not already, make sure to subscribe, follow, and like wherever you get your podcasts. Next episode will be episode 10, so we have plenty of content for you to enjoy. If you are an Elon athlete, coach, or alumni interested in being featured in a future episode of the podcast, contact Jacob Kaisamore at jkisamore@elon.edu or Chase Strasser at cstrawser@elon.edu. Make sure to follow us on all of our social media channels. We're on Twitter or X at EU Rising Phoenix and on Instagram at Elon Rising Phoenix. We're also now on TikTok at Elon Rising Phoenix. New articles, graphics, and other content can be found on any of these platforms. Finally, new episodes of the podcast will premiere every other Wednesday, so check back in every few weeks for a brand new episode with an exciting guest. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Rising Phoenix podcast.